influential minds.
Dana Carvey, Steve Martin, Seth Rogen, Amy Schumer. You now are the first guest to ever give me a plug.
I've been wanting to plug you since I met you.
Unparalleled humor.
Chris Rock.
James Brown grabbed my hair one day. He said, boy, you know what you need to do with that? You need to put some vinegar in there and turn it. The Howard Stern Show on Howard 100.
To hear Howard 100 and Howard 101, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visiting SiriusXM.com/go.
With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
And tailgate party anthems.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games.
To informative podcasts and live college football.
30, 20, you're not going to catch him. The Brit breezes into the end zone. Touchdown!
Add some school spirit to any moment this fall.
This is my fight song.
With an all-new collection in the SiriusXM app. Just search Back to School.
You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. Let's see. You gotta get this. You gotta get this. Let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 018-14868.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me, and people who love the universe. And that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighborhood? Shut up! Ooh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, well, I told you I was voted neighborhood spokesperson, and I like bringing people together. And some people just don't appreciate it when it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's their problem. They voted for me. I said, cut all the votes. And when they counted all the votes, they said, Big C is the neighborhood spokesperson. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood in Denver Hills, California. Monday the 16th, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. Home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. But if your split's not wide enough, just keep going to those fast food restaurants. And they'll make your split wider. I guarantee it. They will make your split wider. You got to exercise when you're doing the wide splits. Had a lot of great things happening. And now you know what a sneeze button is for. I tell you, I caught the sneeze right in the nick of time. But I do want to say I love bringing you the Big C Sports Podcast. I love what I'm doing with the show. I have some Big C's, some college football, the wrap-up that happened over the weekend. A lot of great games are being played in this country. Georgia had a scare. Texas won big. USC, Michigan would be the big game coming up this week. And then UNLV knocked off Kansas And then the schools talking about joining the new Pac-12. I guess they'll have between 8 and 10 teams, so numbers don't mean a thing. And at the same time, got some NFL football. There were some upsets in NFL football. Some teams lost. The 49ers lost again in Minnesota. They've had a hard time winning over there. But things change. But not much changes when you go up against the Purple Rain defense called the Purple People Eaters. They came back, Alan Page and those good old boys. But I tell you, the 49ers, they've always had a hard time winning over there in Denver Hills, Minnesota. But that's just one game. It's just one game. They're going to have to figure out how to get those teams that they lose to. It seems like over a decade and a half now when they go back to Minnesota, they don't fare too well. But I'll get into all that. All's fair in love and war. Really do appreciate the fact that we have some great newcomers in NFL football. I want to say with the Big C Sports Podcast, I always produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all have more laughter in our lives. I love having more laughter. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play. 1st and 10, 50-yard lines, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. Purdy with the snap, rolling to his right, rolling, throws downfield. It is caught by Deebo Samuel. And they say he's out of bounds. He's out of bounds. Of course they say he's out of bounds in Minnesota. But that was a great game. Jefferson got a little bit of a hitch in his giddy up, but had over 100 yards on 4 catches for Minnesota. We will see what happens with that. I'll get into more NFL football soon. And then the show's uploaded to 29 podcast applications out of New York City. And number 9, I never missed a show. That's 10. Never missed a show since starting Big C Sports Podcast back in the day at Salem Media. And I'll not tolerate any sneezes messing with this show. There's an elixir that I found. It's called Vibranium. And it helps me stop with the sneezing. I got to get me some more of that. I want to thank Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. I want to let light shine on the world. I'm so hopeful about the talks that are going on for reparations in Denver Hills, California. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of explaining to do. And things are going to happen with that. Attended a couple of meetings over the weekend with the California Legislative Black Caucus and the shenanigans that happened with the vote being obstructed, not even counted, and I believe it still traces. Last I heard, waterfalls, they flow down, they don't flow up. I believe it was California Governor Gavin Newsom that put out the call to put a pause, to table the event. But then, nothing happens in life without lawsuits. You can beg and plead people to do the right thing, but oftentimes when they're summoned to court, that's when the dirt comes out in the wash. I believe that's going to be happening in Denver Hills, California. I do want to say what I don't want to ever do. In my best English, what I don't want to ever do, I sound like the late, great Zig Ziglar. I want to make sure I pay homage to what I've been hearing more and more on CBS Sports and ESPN Sports and Fox Sports. It's a good thing. The Veterans Crisis Hotline, they are there to help our veterans. They are there to help veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone. Help's right there around the corner. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise because we all need somebody to lean on. And it's so good when somebody's leaning back. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I do want to say that when I cover a Big C Sports Podcast and I bring you the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball, of course, NFL football, I love doing that. But there are a lot of good high school football games that were played as well. And I want to make sure that I do my part in just paying homage to some of the top high school football teams in the country. I want to start with number 1, Modern Day of Santa Ana. They had a big win over Hawaii State Power, Kahuku, and obviously the Monarchs, defending national champions. They are a private school in Southern California, And no matter what you think about the private school issue, they can pull kids from many, many different places. And that gives them an advantage over a public school. And that's okay too. Because public schools, they want to get better, so they try to reach out and play a lot of the private schools. But modern day Santa Ana, they're a different breed of cat. They tend to go from sea to shining sea, winning games against other state powers. But I do want to just acknowledge what greatness is. They've had some great success with that program. I'm going to count from number 10 to number 1 in Big C's high school football power rankings. I'm going to start number 10. I have Mission Viejo of Southern California. Number 9, St. Thomas Aquinas, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, North Shore of Houston, Texas. At number 7, I have Carrollton of Georgia. Number 6, IMG Academy out of Bradenton, Florida. I have number 5, Bishop Gorman of Las Vegas, Nevada. Number 4, Duncanville, Texas. Number 3, Milton out of Georgia. And number 2, St. John Bosco of Bellflower, California. They are 4-0. And then number 1, Modern Day out of Santa Ana. They are 3-0. They're part of the Trinity League. So those programs in California, they've gone from Texas to Florida to New Jersey to Washington, D.C., beating everybody in their path. So California has great high school football programs. At the same time, the Pac-12, which is right here in the heartbeat of the greatest high school football programs in the country, and the Pac-12 went away. I'm going to talk more about how they're trying to bring the new Pac-12 back. I hope it happens. But gone are the teams, USC, UCLA, they're gone. They're not coming back. They may just talk like Cal and Stanford. They want to come back home. What did Dorothy Wizard of Oz say? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. It seems like Stanford and Cal, they want to come back to the West Coast and start playing some games in this newfound Pac-12 conference. And I hope it happens. There's no reason to have these great teams in California, from Arizona to California to Oregon and Washington, playing in the Big 12 and also in the Big 10. That makes no sense whatsoever. But money talks, and when someone throws $100 million at you, like I won in the night's Powerball, then oftentimes things change. $100 million, things can change, and $100 million can change a lot of things. Before I get into some sports, I do want to make sure I always pay homage to the reparations push that I'm on with the people here in California, the National Black Wall Street Project.com, as co-chair. I love bringing that up. But I also want to make sure that I bring to you a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth. That's Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the law office of Scott Thibodeau and attorney George Jones, the Missing Link Long-Term Care Solutions by the book. Over 3 decades of experience helping seniors get their benefits. I was just talking to United Seniors of Oakland, Alameda County today, and making sure that we're a part of what they're doing in their outreach to help seniors. Medicare and You, and Taking Care of Tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal, and other parts of the country is called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spend down for nursing home costs, and you got to find out your options. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. I promise to you, specialized to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without the spend down. You know, I said like I'm in a football game. HUD 1, HUD 2, asset protection. Asset protection, protection of your assets without a spend down. The spend downs over in California. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by our staff of entitlement specialists, ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary, benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medication, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, protection of your assets, if that makes sense to you. HUD 1, HUD 2, asset protection, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family, avoiding the nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. You better believe, you bet your assets. If you don't have a will and a trust, probate's gonna love you. Why would they love me, Big C? Because they have a will for you, and you will not like it. They will come after all your assets, if that makes sense to you. 10 to 40% they can take. But with the RDC team, we have a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. But I'm not done yet. I said I'm not done yet. And that's what I often say when I'm eating Or when I want seconds, I say, I'm not done yet, mama! I'm not done yet! Asset protection! Protection and coverage. Insurance coverage required by law, general liability, workers' compensation. We have lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal, planning for long-term care. Avoid probate. We have life insurance policies, veterans benefits, aid and attendance, pre-planning and avoid the look-back period. We have fixed asset protection. What kind of protection, Big C? I said our trust protects your fixed assets. What are fixed assets, Big C? Your bank account, checking account, savings account, money market accounts, certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values, fixed indexed annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? Does the trust protect that? I'm glad you asked. What are variable assets? That they are real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k, other investments. Avoid capital gains. For example, let's say you buy a house for $100,000, and then 1 year later that house appreciates to $1 million. Well, that's a $900,000 capital gains. You avoid that with a trust. Oh, attention business owners. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Over 3 decades of experience. You got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. Oh, my insurance covers everything. All we need is a copy of your declaration page. All you got to do is call. Pick up the phone and call me. And I'll be there. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. And tell them Big C sent you. Big C, I have a friend. He does trust. So why would I trust you? That's a good question. We have some great endorsements. Most people, they don't tell you their endorsements because they don't have any. And we have great endorsements. The late James Gomez, who advised 4 California governors and led change in California nursing homes. And he also served on Golden One's board of directors for 21 years. But not only that, we have the late Robert Carlson. He was the top legal counsel for CalPERS. They both endorsed the RDC team. And then we got more endorsements than that. You got to realize that the late Jim Gomez was the CEO of the California Association of Health Facilities. But not only that, we have Mr. George Jones, Esquire, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce. Also, Attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. We have Mr. Leon Woods, works with many of the top lobbyists in Northern California. Also, we have Ms. Cheryl Brown. Now, she's the chair of the California Department of Aging. She endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of RDC Consulting, Resource Development Consulting. We also have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. Not only that, business development consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, the owner of Big C Sports Podcast Corporation, who talks about asset protection. But not only that, we have Double O, the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. Also, business development consultant for the RDC team. But not only that, has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. You can Google it on Aztec Sacramento, and everybody loves to eat. You want to give that some praise? I say give it praise, praise, praise. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Call if you have any questions. 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Now, you know, I did a reading for Oracle back in the day in the Bay Area, and you realize that Big C just did a reading. Now, there are corporations in America. You need someone that's skilled enough, the power of the tongue, to let the people know what you are offering them, to elucidate the subject. You need someone who's expert and won a Bay Area Broadcast Excellence Award for pontification and enunciation. That's the Big C team, 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. Do it now! I said do it now, man. Latin is straight. If you don't do it now, also want to say thank you for the help with Spiritual Life Center that happened just over the weekend. A great event. And as a sponsor for Big C Sports Podcast, really do appreciate their help. Also, one of the sponsors, Jay King, part of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, in Charlton Curry, Big C Sports Podcast. A lot of good things happening with what I'm doing with the Big C Sports Podcast. But I also got to get this commercial that's being worked on for the Big C team for NFL football, college football, NBA basketball, and Major League Baseball. It's sometimes taking a little bit longer. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes people take a little bit longer to do things. But God is my source. I do my own things. I either lead, I either follow, or I get out of the way. I want to just talk about something that's important when it comes to Big C Sports Podcast. I love doing what I do. It's important to me. I know there's times when people say you need to do more, or you're doing too much, and maybe you can do less. But I believe less is more, and sometimes more is less. I want to say I had a great time at the Turkey Festival in Denver Hills, California last week. Met some wonderful business people with that. Really do appreciate Double O and making that happen with Faye and also Ray Dela Cruz with the RDC team. Really do appreciate you guys. I want to throw it back into the ring of something that I want to do before I even get in to Big C Sports Podcast. I have so much that I want to say I'm grateful for, but I heard if you know where you come from, maybe you respect your root a little better. I want to make sure that we get the word out for reparations. It's important. I want to make sure that I'm not just a sports guy. I know some good old boys that want to pretend they're doing things on TV to get some more ratings, but I want to do things where I don't suck in job. That's why I will always pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because I know a mine is a terrible thing to waste. I want to thank the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber, the Secretary of the State of California. She worked with the California Governor Gavin Newsom to put together a task force and mandate a task force, and they came up with 1,065 pages, and someone put a banana in the tailpipe. Someone foiled the project on the 31st of August. They're blaming the California Legislative Black Caucus. I think waterfalls flow down. They don't flow up. I think it came from California Governor Gavin Newsom. If not, we will see. Let him come out and say it. I want to also thank the chair, Camila Moore. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. Also doing work with Ben Crump, one of the top attorneys in the country. And she also came on Big C Sports Podcast just last week. I want to give her praise. I want to thank also Dr. Amy C. Brown, the vice chair of I'm telling you, the California Reparations Task Force. He also did the benediction at the DNC in Chicago, but he also came on Big C Sports Podcast. Really do want to give him praise. I want to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He also is a champion for reparations in California, and he's asking that they put Senate Bill 1331 and 1403 back on the desk of the governor to vote on. I want to give him praise, and I support him. I want to give praise to Council Member Monica Montgomery Steps. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer, who also came on Big C Sports Podcast. I'm disappointed by him and his behavior when he would not stand for having the bills voted on, and I don't understand his behavior, but he was also on Big C Sports Podcast. I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Grill. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Lisa Holder. She also specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to Attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. Give him all praise. I say give him praise, praise, praise. That's my story, and I'm taking with it. I got to tell you, there's something that I love about life that lets you have the opportunity to pursue things that make life worth living. It makes you happy. I know we have some NFL football tonight. I will touch on that as well. And then I want to give you a wrap-up of what happened in the NFL over the weekend. And then I want to get you also involved with what happened with college football. But before I do that, I want to play something that's very poignant that has to do with reparations.
It seems like amongst everything, there's a fight over money. That $12 million.
So I'm happy to answer that question separately from that, but we're not going to do it right now.
When that bill did not go to the floor, suspicion was high.
Did all members sign on to the letter stating that the $6 billion should go to the Bridges Fund and the universities?
How important is reparations on your mind on a scale of 1 to 10?
Thirdly, can't tell you how disappointed I am in each and every single one of you. I have to say that. The way that you handled SB 1403, SB 1331 was a disgrace. It was horrible. Mr. McCartney, how can you be the mayor of Sacramento if you work to kill a reparations bill in the state assembly?
What you just heard were members of the California Legislative Black Caucus taking questions on what happened during the reparations vote. It is not over. But before I get into sports, I want you to hear from the greatest speaker in the history of this country when it comes to reparations.
And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
And did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. You know, it's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You heard Dr. Martin Luther King talk about reparations, and that's what I want to do with the Big C Sports Podcast. I want to make sure that I'm part of the group that makes it happen. We are the press, as the great Bishop Williams said on One Going with Tim and Marvell. We are the press. Big C Sports wants to be the press. Also, CJAC, Coalition for a Just and Equitable California. They have updates on what's going on with reparations on a daily basis. I want to give them praise, and I want to thank Amen Mass Media for sending me information with a clip that I also played on Big C Sports. Are you ready for some football? Yeah! Ready for football. Tonight's Monday Night Football on NFL football is amazing. I know people had some joy, some pain, some sunshine and rain when it came to NFL football. Tonight we have the Philadelphia Eagles, and they will play the Atlanta Falcons in Philadelphia. Now, if an Eagle and a Falcon were to have a real fight, I'm going to go with the Eagle to win. It's Monday Night Football, all fair and level war. The Falcons, they are 0-1. They visit the Philadelphia Eagles. They are 1-0 in a primetime tilt on Monday Night Football to close out week 2 of NFL football. Now, Philadelphia started the year in Brazil taking on the Green Bay Packers, and they got a win. So this is their opening game at their stadium, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. And no matter what you think about it, week 1, the Packers in Brazil were knocked off by Philadelphia, finished with 100 and actually had 410 total yards of offense that game, averaged 5.5 yards per play. Meanwhile, Atlanta, they had 226 total yards of offense. They went 2 of 9 on third downs in an 18-10 loss at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So kickoff's already in the way at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It kicked off at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Philadelphia is a 5.5-point favorite in the latest Eagles versus Falcons game, and the over-under is 45.5. The way the Eagles played, they're probably going to go over. Atlanta has a decent team, but they don't score a lot of points offensively. I think the Eagles will definitely cover that with touchdown Jalen Hurts doing his thing. And obviously, when I think about the NFC East, Dallas got knocked off by New Orleans. I'll talk about that game coming up. And then you got what's going on with the New York Giants. Just not a good team. Philadelphia, they're going to be the star of that conference. And I just feel that it's going to come down to Philadelphia and Dallas again, not taking anything away from Washington and also the New York Football Giants. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. But I got to tell you what I feel. The Falcons have hit the fourth quarter. They've hit the fourth-quarter under in 6 of their last 9 away games. I think Philadelphia is a much better team. They have a lot of great talent on offense. Receiver Devonta Smith is a great route runner. He's known as Mr. Reliable in Philadelphia due to his secure hands, his ability to make big plays. And when you look at a quarterback that can get the ball to them, Jalen Hurts is a guy that can get in and out of the pocket and find the open receiver. If not, he can also run for a first down. So I love what I'm seeing in Philadelphia. But why can the Falcons cover? The Falcons had a stout pass defense last season, ranking 8th in passing yards allowed at 203 yards per game. And quarterback A.J. Terrell is a long, athletic playmaker who thrives in man coverage. I don't know if it's going to help him tonight against Philadelphia. This is the home opener, and you know the crowd's already jacked up in Philadelphia waiting for this game. I think it's all about touchdown Jalen Hurts. If he finds time to make the Falcons defense pay, I think he can do that. I feel, like I said before, in a real fight, I think an eagle would be the Falcon. But that's just my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion, but I think touchdown Jalen Hurts will have a fine game, and that's my thoughts. I want to get into some of the things that I saw happen over the weekend with Big C's thoughts on NFL football that I absolutely love. A lot of great games. Week 2 NFL football began Thursday night with a Buffalo Bills blowout win over the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa left the game in the third quarter with a concussion. There are many people who feel that Tua should be retired. I'm not one of them. I would love to see the man play. Again, it's up to him. If he can pass the physical that they give him, of course, give him a couple of weeks off. It's a decision that only he can make. NFL football is a dream for a lot of players. And there are a lot of guys who play with pain. A lot of guys play when they're concussed. If it's medically necessary to say stop playing football, let that be a doctor's choice, not someone in the media. That's why I'm all for him. If he feels like playing and he clears medical protocol, I'm all for saying let him play. On Sunday, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they tamed the Detroit Lions. And touchdown Baker Mayfield, I thought he was Barry Sanders, the way he was making people miss on that turf in Detroit. But the New Orleans Saints also offense proved to be a little bit too much for. How about those Cowboys? Well, those Cowboys, who that say they're going to beat them Saints? And Dallas says, not us. They said, not us. But the Packers quarterback, Malik Willis, also helped lead Green Bay to his first win of the season, while Lamar Jackson led Baltimore Ravens. They fell to the Raiders. They said the autumn wind was a Raider. The Raiders came from down double digits in the fourth. That shows you that the Raiders team, Devontae Adams, they're leading. Gardner Minshew, good game to come back on the road and tackle Superman Lamar Jackson in their own backyard. Really impressed by that win, the Raiders over the Baltimore Ravens. How about those Cardinals? The Arizona Cardinals, a 31-point beatdown of the Los Angeles Rams, was spearheaded by big performances from quarterback touchdown Kyler Murray, and then rookie wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. And then Sunday night, it featured the Houston Texans blitzing their way to victory over Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. What a game. That defense is starting to show that they're the real deal down in Houston. This is not your bum Phillips defense where they want to kick the door in. They're knocking that door in with this team, all fair and level work. I got to give you some Big C thoughts. Houston 19, Chicago Bears 13. The Bears are who we thought they are. You want to crown them? Crown them. The late, great Dennis Green. The Bears are who we thought they were. 19-13, a defensive struggle. The Texans have a dynamic receiving duo of Stephon Touchdown Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. While Collins had his second consecutive 100-yard game, had 135 yards. Dell and Diggs combined for 30 yards. That's been the theme through 2 weeks. Diggs has 2 touchdowns in 2024, but 70 yards receiving. He has to get that production up. And then Dell has not made many plays either, totaling 33 receiving yards, all fair and 11 war. I got to take it to the great C.J. Stroud. He dropped back 39 times, but called 21 rushing plays and 76 yards. The Texans had success running the ball in week 1 as Joe Mixon reached 160 yards rushing on 30 carries against the Indianapolis Colts. So Mixon was battling an ankle injury, had a hitch in his giddy-up. And then when you think about another great stat, cornerback Derek Stingley Jr., he guarded the Bears receiver DJ Moore on 28 routes. He allowed only 52 yards while snagging an interception, and Stingley followed Moore the majority of the game. Next game is at the Minnesota Vikings Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff. All Fran LeBoer, the Bears are who you thought they are! But how can the Bears support Caleb Williams, who's going to be a phenomenal NFL quarterback? At times, the number 1 pick looked better in his second outing. 2 of his best passes came on Chicago's lone scoring drive, where negated by a penalty and a drop by wide receiver Rome Meduze out of University of Washington. Williams finished 23 of 37, 175 yards, no touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions and had a 51 passer rating. The Bears had no answer for Houston's blitz. You want to blitz them? Blitz them! They were blitzing from the left, they were blitzing from the right, and they were blitzing from the middle. They failed to protect Williams, who was sacked 7 times after going 0 for 5 under pressure against the Titans. Williams went 2 for 9 for 20 yards with 2 interceptions while being pressured against Houston. You can't look at that and say, oh my God, he's not going to be a good quarterback. It takes time. Chicago has to fix their offensive line. They're just going to have to do that. Fields, when he was there, Justin Fields had the same issues, and now he's in Pittsburgh. Next game at the Indianapolis Colts, Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. What a game of the day. The game of the day, in my opinion, Kansas City Chiefs 26, Cincinnati Bengals 25. What happened? Travis Kelce has disappeared from the passing game. He had just 1 catch for 5 yards after a 3-catch, 34-yard performance last week against the Ravens. The Chiefs are deeper at wide receiver than they have been in recent years. They have receiving alternative at tight end in Noah Gray and Jared Wiley, so they don't consistently need big production from Travis Kelce. However, it's difficult to see them being as dynamic offensively without getting more out of touchdown Travis Kelce. Now, many people feel the biggest and best player in the NFL is touchdown Patrick Mahomes threw just 13 passes. 13? Yeah, 13 passes in the first half. As the defending Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs attempted 18 running plays. They were mostly productive, but generated just 10 first-half points, and the Chiefs need their running game to help take some pressure off of touchdown Patrick Mahomes' passing attack. But when they're out of balance, then they're not maximizing their return from the best player, and that's touchdown Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes, he didn't have his best game. He threw a pair of interceptions, had a third one called back because of a Bengals penalty, and touchdown Patrick Mahomes tried but failed to get a big play downfield other than a 44-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Rashid Rice. And otherwise, the Chiefs had no pass play of more than 16 yards. Next game at the Atlanta Falcons, Sunday, 8:20 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. How about those Bengals? Touchdown Joe Burrow. Seems to be a little bit injured, banged up. His wrist, Cincinnati could not have asked for a more encouraging showing from Burrow in the beginning after the downfield passing attack was absent toward the end of training camp in the season opener. But touchdown Joe Burrow was more than willing to push the ball deep downfield. He also embraced contact without any reservations, which led to some important gains, but also a fumble that was returned for a touchdown. But the outing bodes well for Burrow as he continues to come back from that right wrist injury. But you're down 0-2 to start the season. It's going to be hard to climb out of that hole and get a playoff spot unless they go on a big winning spree. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got to tell you something. When you think about these players, Cincinnati and Kansas City, Chase had a bad play. At the end of the game, there are many people that feel that Kansas City was bailed out by a pass that was thrown high. Defensive back did come into the receiver, and they threw the flag, but there are times when the receivers let the players play. I hate to see when the officials enter the game and they can control the outcome of a game. That was a fourth down play, and Cincinnati would have gotten the ball back. But if you run into the receiver, they can call it every play. They don't. They called it that time, maybe a little bit of home cooking. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Next game versus the Commanders Monday night, 8:15 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. Pittsburgh Steelers 13, Denver Broncos 6. The Steelers. Is the defense as good as the steel curtain from back in the day with Mean Joe Green? I think not, but the Steelers defense has given up 16 points this season. That's the fewest points allowed through the first 2 weeks since 2007. The second half defensive performance did not quite match up with the first half, but when the Steelers held the Broncos to 62 total yards and 29 passing yards, the Broncos found second half success with Bo Nix out of University of Oregon in the pass game and moved the ball through chunk plays, but the defense still came up big. I'm telling you, there's something about that Steelers defense, the black and gold, but they're going to have to score more points if they're going to be a champion in the NFL again. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got quarterback touchdown Justin Fields. Justin Fields, his start in the Steelers home opener. So Fields had an uneven performance. He played well enough for the Steelers to continue to be cautious about touchdown Russell Wilson. In his calf injury, Fields was 10 of 12 for 101 yards and a touchdown. I think he's playing well enough for Mike Tomlin to have some confidence in him, but they're going to have to work out that passing game to get more yards downfield. Next game versus the Chargers Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. And then the Broncos had 3 first downs and 62 yards at halftime. Bo Nix had 39 yards passing midway through the third quarter. And the Denver offense could not provide much en route to an 0-2 start for the second consecutive week. Coach Sean Payton kept the offense in a bevy of 3 wide receiver sets and did not utilize the run game. They got to get better offensively. No matter what you think about Denver and Pittsburgh, they just got to get more production. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I do like that Steelers defense. They're playing lights-out football, in my opinion. Next game at the Buccaneers Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. Arizona 41, LA Rams 10. Yeah, that's not a typo. 41-10. This looks like an Arizona team that should have beaten Buffalo, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but they didn't. The defense let up in Buffalo last week, but they came back home in the Valley of the Desert, and they did a number on the Rams. You got to take what Arizona did in Week 1 in Buffalo and compound that with the showing Sunday against the Rams, in which the Cardinals put up 41 points, 489 yards, total offense featuring a 100-yard receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr. and 100-yard rusher in James Conner. The Cardinals are averaging 34.5 points per game and 374 yards in their 2 games. Will they challenge the 49ers in the NFC West? Based on these first 2 games, it looks like they can. We will see rookie breakout. The Cardinals rookie wide receiver followed a 1-catch performance in its NFL debut with 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of his first home game. Both of his scores were electric, showcasing how talented he is as a playmaker in the NFL. All's fair in love and war. Next game versus the Lions Sunday at 4:25 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. How about the Rams? What will the passing offense look like if wide receiver Cooper Kupp misses the game with an ankle injury? The Rams, in their position, is already being tested with wide receiver Puka Nacua going on injured reserve with a knee injury. If Kupp misses the game and Los Angeles doesn't add the room, the Rams will rely on top of the receiving core of DeMarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson, and Tutu Atwell. Our rookie 6th-round pick Jordan Whittington, quarterback touchdown Matthew Stafford on the offense struggled to move the ball against the Cardinals, finished with only 245 yards passing a week after the Lions ran the ball 7 times to lead to the field in overtime to win. The Rams defense struggled to stop the run against Arizona. The Cardinals ran with ease. They finished with 231 yards, including 59 yards on 5 carries by quarterback Kyler Murray. The Cardinals look scary. They've done this before. If they do it again, they will challenge the 49ers in the NFC West. I'm not saying it's going to happen yet. Seattle also went on the road and won. We will see what happens. Next game versus the 49ers Sunday at 4:25 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. How about the Raiders? The Las Vegas Raiders 26, Baltimore Ravens 23. So the autumn win was a Raider. Just win, baby, win. The late great Al Davis said, just win, baby, win. After an anemic 6+ quarters of football, the Raiders had only 48 yards of offense at halftime in Baltimore. Quarterback touchdown Gardner Minshew out of Washington State and wide receiver the great Devontae Adams out of Fresno State. They all came to life. 10 points with 12 minutes to play. Las Vegas, they didn't play in the craps table. They did not play in the craps table. Las Vegas became a juggernaut as Adams finished with 9 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown. The offense awakening gave the defense some life. They played like the Raiders of old, like they were in Oakland. But they did it in Baltimore. The Raiders forgot to pack their running game on offense, or did you miss Las Vegas rushing for 4 yards in the first half? They got to figure that out. But this team, their loss to the Chargers is not as bad as it seemed. On the defensive end, you got to look at Max Crosby. When he wasn't in the Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson's face, having the big C burger, he sacked the elusive quarterback twice. The talkative Raider edge rusher was in Jackson's ear, and for good reason, after Jackson ran for 122 yards and 7 first downs during the Ravens season opening loss at Kansas City. Crosby helped limit Jackson to just 20 yards on the ground. 20! He's a man who wrecked the buffet in Baltimore. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Next game versus the Panthers Sunday, 4:05 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. The Ravens. Can you believe the Ravens are 0-2? This is rare for them. The only time Baltimore has started 0-2 in Coach John Harbaugh's previous 16 seasons was in 2015, when the team finished with its worst record under him. They went 5-11 after failing to hold a 10-point lead against the Raiders. With 12 minutes remaining Sunday, Baltimore has dug itself into a deep hole. The black hole! That's the hole they dug themselves into. The black hole! When you fall into a black hole, sometimes you don't want to come out of that. Makes sense to you. The Ravens' next 3 games are against 2 defending division champions. How about those Cowboys? They're going to be at Dallas, which doesn't seem as ominous now. And then at home against Buffalo and at Cincinnati. Quarterback Lamar Jackson, known as Superman, has work to do to get Baltimore back on track as one of the top Super Bowl contenders in the universe. We will see if he can do it. That's a tough start for Baltimore to go 0-2 against Kansas City, and also the Raiders 0-2 against 2 AFC West teams. Now, a false start by running back touchdown Derrick Henry on the Ravens version of the tush-push stop Baltimore from converting on the 3rd and 1. A pass interference penalty by cornerback Brandon Stevens is set up the Raiders game-time touchdown. Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker in NFL history, is having trouble with long kicks. Tucker, 34, missed wide left from 56 yards, which makes him 1 for 7 from 50 yards and over. He's not the same kicker they used to have in the past. Next game at the Cowboys is Sunday, 4:25 p.m. East Coast time. Cleveland, this is for you. The Cleveland Browns 18, a Jacksonville Jaguars 13. This is not your granddaddy's Cleveland Browns. You got to think about the Browns offense. It wasn't perfect. By any means, it was not perfect. But it put on a much better effort than his week 1 no-show. Cleveland ran the ball well and brought in extra linemen to get the ground game going. Penalties continue to be an issue, but the Browns got cleaner play from quarterback touchdown Deshaun Watson, who did not run the ball and rush for a touchdown in the first quarter. You got to think about the Browns. They got to be more disciplined. They have a defense that can carry them a long way. Their offense, they got to find their groove. I'm going to tell you, the Browns' offense will break out against the Giants. It wasn't great against Jacksonville, but it shows signs of life in the first half, and the Browns can finally get one or both of their top tackles back next week, and Jarek Wills Jr. and also Jack Conklin. Next game versus the Giants Sunday at 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time. The Jaguars, they gave a lot of money to Trevor Lawrence, their quarterback. They're 0-2. They still have road games at Buffalo next Monday night. That's a loss. And at Houston the following week. That's a loss. Only one team has made the playoffs after an 0-4 start, the 1992 San Diego Chargers. This team has to overcome some major issues, starting with an offensive line missing nearly 3/4 of their starters against the Browns. We will see what happens. All's fair in love and war, but Cleveland is not so desperate in Cleveland as it may have seemed after they were beaten down at home by the Dallas Cowboys. Next game at the Bills, Monday, 7:30 p.m. East Coast time. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Washington, 21. New York Giants, 18. The Commanders were in charge. Quarterback Jalen Daniels, Heisman Trophy winner. He needs more help in the run game provided at Sunday. Running back Brian Robinson Jr. had the 2 long runs of his career, 32 and 40 yards en route to 133 yards. He got his chest in the win for 133 yards, got his chest in the win. His power inside made a big difference. Austin Eckler's contributions in the pass game fueled the offense. Eckler caught 3 passes for 47 yards and ran 8 times for 38 more. Now, Washington needs to find their identity. Like the Hawks back in the day, they got to find that identity and run the ball more. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You got to think about this game. It was an ugly win, but a win is a win. It's better than a good loss, if that makes sense to you. You got to realize Washington's coverage plans from elite neighbors. Washington used backup Mike Davis against the Giants rookie for the first half, and it did not go well for Neighbors. Caught 5 passes, 73 yards, and the Commanders kept playing man against Neighbors in key spots, and he beat them on crossers. Next game at the Bengals, Monday, 8:15 p.m. East Coast time. All's fair and level war. The Giants, Daniel Jones was a man. Daniel Jones, hard to tell why Jones always seemed to play well against Washington. He threw a pair of touchdown passes Sunday and now has 12 touchdown passes and 3 interceptions against the Commanders in his career. Jones continued the trend, playing well in this matchup, making good plays, and even late in the fourth quarter. It had to be good for his confidence. That's huge considering it was a concern entering week 2. The Giants did not have a kicker. That really happened. They could not even try to kick a field goal to take the lead with just over 2 minutes remaining. Things that got to get better in New York. You can't be an NFL team, and you can't even have a guy who can kick the ball when you need him. Next game at the Browns Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. Kickoff East Coast time. How about those Seahawks? I told you Seahawks can fly far because they have wings. 23, New England 20. The Seahawks quarterback, Geno Smith, one of the NFL's most clutch quarterbacks. He routinely came through in crunch time last season, throwing a single-season record 7 go-ahead touchdown passes. The fourth quarter or overtime, he did it again Sunday, leading the field goal drive to tie the game late in regulation and win it in overtime. He finished 33 of 44, 327 yards, a touchdown pass, and no turnovers despite 5 drops and next to no help from his run game, which produced only 46 yards. 46? Yeah, 46 yards. But the Seahawks, they're no longer sleepers in Seattle. The Seahawks will wear out their passing machines over the next few days. In preparation to face the Dolphins, they had 5 drops against New England and 2 apiece by DK Metcalf and Noah Fant, plus another by Jackson Smith and Jimba. At the same time, it's not going to happen back-to-back. This is a good team in Seattle. Seeing what happened in San Francisco and Minnesota, Seattle can go across the country and win an early game. That bodes well for them. Next game, Dolphins, Sunday, 4 or 5 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. The Patriots are who we thought they were. You want to crown them. This is not your Tom Brady's Patriots. The defense was impressive. You got to give them credit in week 1 against the Bengals, but sprang some leaks as quarterback Geno Smith finished 33 of 44, 327 yards, and 1 touchdown. Some credit should go to the Seahawks and their excellent wide receiver corps, but at the same time, this is not your same New England Patriots team. It was a fumble. The Tuck Rule Patriots would have won this game. The Patriots will have little time to recover with their Thursday night game against touchdown Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. You got to like the Jets in that game. I got to tell you, when you think about football, it's one of the most exciting things on television. Next game at the Jets, Thursday, 8:15 p.m. Got to go with the Jets in that one. New York Jets, speaking of touchdown Aaron Rodgers, New York Jets 24, Tennessee Titans 17. Can quarterback Aaron Rodgers continue to bail out the Jets? Rodgers hit some clutch passes in the fourth quarter to save the Jets from a crushing loss and an 0-2 start. He's not Joe Namath, but he's better, if that makes sense to you. Touchdown Aaron Rodgers going 5 for 5 on a 74-yard drive for the game-winning touchdown. Despite pedestrian numbers, 18 of 30, 176 yards, Rodgers delivered when it mattered the most and did not turn the ball over. That's the reason the Jets traded for him last year. If he can find his groove and the Jets offensive line can give him more time, you got to look at the Jets making the noise. They're not expected to beat Buffalo, but now with Tua banged up in Miami, don't be surprised if the Jets challenge Buffalo in the AFC East. It's not going to be New England. We're going to see. I got to tell you, Rodgers had to run out in his running game with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, both who caught touchdowns. You got guys that can come out of the backfield and catch the ball and run the ball. I like what the Jets are doing. Salah may be saving his career if the Jets can go on and play at their potential. That's my starting ticket with it. And then you got the Tennessee Titans quarterback Will Levis. Costly turnovers hurting the Titans. Single-handedly destroyed the Titans' momentum early in the game against the Jets. Tennessee was en route to a consecutive scoring drive until he made a careless play that led to a turnover for the second week in a row. They just got to work on that. But you're playing in NFL football. This is why they have practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. And then linebacker Harold Landry III had 2 sacks against the Jets and now has a total of 3 after 2 games. He's not normally a fast starter, as shown by his 3.5 sack totals through the first 2 games of his 5 previous seasons. Next game versus the Packers, Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. Minnesota, 23. San Francisco, 49ers, 17. What physical condition will the Vikings be in for Week 3? As exciting as Sunday's victory was, the Vikings were playing without most of their offensive playmakers by the end of the game. You have wide receiver touchdown Justin Jefferson departed the third quarter because of a right quad injury, while wideout Jordan Addison had an ankle injury, was inactive, and T.J. Hawkinson, a knee injury, put on the physically unable to perform list. Running back Aaron Jones, meanwhile, seemed slow in the fourth quarter after a trip in a blue tent. Obviously, he got a little hitch in his giddy-up as well. Describe the game. Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, he spun up a scheme that pressured quarterback Brock Purdy on 13 of his dropbacks and sacked him 6 times. That was a bad offensive performance by the 49ers, which are both the most taken by Purdy in his career. The Vikings also intercepted him and recovered his lone fumble. There would be plenty of adulation around the organization for this 2-0 start. But not so fast, my friend. Flores has found ways to affect both victories via pass coverage and forced turnovers. Now, Jefferson, this makes the highlights. This was Big C's highlights. Jefferson ran a total of 127 yards on a 97-yard touchdown reception in the second quarter, the most by a ball carrier and an offensive touchdown since 2016. The good old boy can play. Sam Darnold had a great game, sent his pass 50 yards in the air, but Jefferson had to stop after catching it and pivot and then outrace J.R. Brown and George Odom for the far corner of the end zone for a touchdown. Next game versus the Texans, Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. How about those Niners? Will the Niners ever win in Minnesota? No matter how good they've been, the Niners simply have not won in the Dome in the Twin Cities. Sunday's loss was their 8th straight at Minnesota, with their last win coming in 1992. 92? What were you doing in 1992? This loss was more alarming for the fact that the Vikings were missing multiple key offensive players for most of the game and still ranked up 407 yards of total offense. Save the linebacker Fred Warner, the 49ers have a lot of improvement to do defensively, and they wanted to get back to the team that was in the Super Bowl last year. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You got to get better. You want winners. I want people who want to win. That was Mike Singletary who said that. Well, that was Mike Singletary who said that, but I'm sure the Niners feel the same thing now. You got to realize the era filled playing on the road and a 10 a.m. start for the 49ers, that was not good for them, but you can't make excuses. Excuses, everybody has them, but they don't win games. Next game at the Rams, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. East Coast time. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20? The Detroit Lions 16, touchdown Baker Mayfield, 5 passing touchdowns with a 6 on the ground are the most ever for him over the first 2 games of the season. His ability to thrive under pressure. He was sacked 5 times. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 times, and then connected with his wide receiver, Chris Godwin, who amassed 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in the first 2 games. Was the difference maker for that game. Without starting right tackle, I'm telling you, this is going to be a good team. Aiden Hutchinson dominated Tampa Bay's offensive line. He registered 4.5 sacks, but they have touchdown Baker Mayfield. He's been bounced around different teams, but Mayfield's been doing his thing. He was also at Carolina, but what he's doing right now with the good old boys in Tampa, he's found new life. The Buccaneers battered secondary grabbed 2 takeaways off Lions quarterback Jared Goff without Antonio Whitfield Jr. and Josh Hayes. Cornerback Zion McCollum, who cleared concussion protocol, secured his first career interception in the first quarter, was set up a 55-yard field goal. I got to tell you, this team, they're exciting. When I watch Baker Mayfield, the way he plays, he has to have him a lot of excitement down in Tampa. Next game versus the Broncos Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time. How about those Lions? Quarterback Jared Goff Sunday was not his greatest performance. While he finished with 307 passing yards. That's not bad. He threw 2 costly interceptions, including a pick on Detroit's first offensive play of the game. He's thrown an interception in each of the first 2 games of the season for just the second time in his career. On a day of the Lions offense recorded 463 yards. Jared's performance was a key factor in the loss. You got to realize that Hutchinson put together a sack hat trick for the opening quarter, ending with a career-high of 4.5 sacks. He was all in the backfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's the most by a Lions player since it became his official stat in 1982. What were you doing in 1982? This is a good team in Detroit, but Tampa's a good team too. Next game Sunday at the Cardinals, 4:25 p.m. kickoff East Coast time. Green Bay 16, Indianapolis 10. The Packers quarterback without touchdown Jordan Love, considering they're playing yet another offensively challenged AFC South team. The Titans next week. Why not? While it sounded like Love, what's Love got to do? The late great Tina Turner told us Love was close to being able to play against the Colts, but the Packers may want to take another bye week recovering and let him get totally healthy. An 0-3 start would have been tough to overcome, but not impossible. Don't push him to play early. Malik Wills and another run-heavy game plan can help the Packers get over the hump and the frozen tundra. Jacobs grabbed 32 times, 151 yards, and Willis was effective when he had the chance to throw the ball 12 of 14, 122 yards, and a touchdown. The Packers' 237 yards rushing in the first half was the third most by an NFL team in the first half of a game since 2000. It was 14 behind the most, which was led by the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2006. And all the Packers rushed 53 times, 261 yards. That's going to win you some games. Next game at the Tennessee Titans Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time. How about those Colts? These are not Johnny Unitas Colts. For the second week in a row, the Colts were physically dominated by an up-front line in running game. They just couldn't get it going. The Packers, they posted historic first half rushing totals, 237 yards, while the Colts got the rushing attack under control in the second half. The Packers still managed to convert some critical third downs, and Green Bay beat the Colts with great misdirection and just for playing more forceful. The Colts have now allowed 405 rushing yards this season. Game plan, quarterback Anthony Richardson was the Colts' leading rusher, 6 carries, 56 yards. He's so dynamic, but they got to have a good passing game to go along with it. I want to see him grow into a great quarterback, maybe Lamar Jackson Part 2. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. When you think about that game, the next game versus the Bears Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff East Coast time. And then New Orleans, 44. How about those Cowboys? 19. The Saints are who we thought they were. You want to crown them. Who that say they're going to beat them Saints? The Saints proved their new offense is for real. After blowing out the Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys, how long can they keep this up, this record-setting pace? The Saints starting offense scored on his first 16 possessions of the season. They gave running back Alvin Kamara his second career fourth touchdown game and looked unstoppable. The Saints did not stall on a possession under touchdown Derek Carr, who played at Fresno State and Bakersfield Christian High School, and the Raiders decided to trade him. Now they wish they had him back. You got to think about how good Carr played. The great performance, it's hard to take away what Carr's doing. Drew Brees is always in the mind of the fans down in New Orleans. But Carr, he earned it, and he's a great player. And Carr and the offense did great against the Cowboys. They set the tone early and never let the gas off, using Rashid Shaheed, his speed, and Kamara's versatility while deploying multiple players and blockers to allow Carr to play pretty much an error-free game for the most part. Had a couple of hitches in his giddy-up. When you think about what the Saints are doing, 91 points. The Saints made a big move this offseason by moving away from the Sean Payton's offense that won the Super Bowl title in 2009. The team put up 93 points in its first 2 games, the second most in NFL history. I said the second most in NFL history. This season, the Saints are tied for 6th in NFL history with 91 points through week 2. How about those Cowboys? They were dominated by the Browns, dominated by the Saints through 3 quarters. The Saints averaged 9.7 yards per play, almost a first down every time you have the play. The 35 points allowed in the first half tied for the most given up through the first 2 quarters in team history. Last year, the Cowboys allowed more than 35 points in a game just once. Carr was hardly touched. Neither was Kamara, who had 4 touches. Mike McCarthy was around for the last time an opponent had 4 touchdowns against Dallas with the Green Bay Packers, with touchdown Aaron Rodgers scoring 4 in a Green Bay game at AT&T Stadium. My goodness, what happened to the Cowboys? You got to look at the Cowboys and say, can this defense hold up? I believe they're going to get things on track. But in other words, they have a lot to improve on. It wasn't as bad as a 48-32 wildcard loss to the Packers last year, but only because this wasn't a playoff loss. The Cowboys allowed touchdowns on the Saints' first 6 possessions. The offense moved the ball but failed in 2 red zone trips and settled for too many Brandon Arbery field goals. Next game versus the Ravens, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. How about those Chargers? The Chargers 26, Carolina Panthers 3. Should the Chargers stop splitting carries between Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins? Dobbins had another record-setting Sunday, finished with 17 carries, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. Dobbins is also the first Chargers player to rush for 100 yards in each of his first 2 games of a season. I'm telling the good boy can find the first downs. Edwards had 18 carries, 59 yards. But the most surprising performance, Quentin Johnson, 2 touchdowns. Johnson had 2 touchdowns over the first 18 games of his career before he caught 2 in the first half. Sunday, Johnson scored on a 29-yard catch from quarterback J.C. Horn. The most impressive play of the day, Johnston ran by Horn and adjusted as the ball was in the air. I got to tell you, Harbaugh, who's got it better than us? Nobody. The Panthers held the Chargers. I'm telling you, I thought they were going to win that game with the Chargers going to the East. But it didn't happen. The Chargers held the Panthers quarterback Bryce Young to just 22 passing yards in the first half. It's not his fault. Their offensive line is horrible. The Chargers defense had allowed just 13 points over the first 2 weeks of the season, and they benched Bryce Young, but it's not his fault. You'll find out why Baker Mayfield couldn't make it there either. Next game at the Steelers, Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. I got to tell you, there's no one to blame. It's an NFL football team. You got to find a way to win games, and they didn't do it. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, I love me some football, NFL style. Are you ready for the football? Yeah! I am with Big C Sports Podcast. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink, because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can walk it off, you can sleep it off, you can call Uber, you can call Lyft, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of the car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. There's never ever an excuse to go through that crap. If you're going through it, you need more leader in your life. Leader is an acronym for love is the answer. If someone loves you, they don't hit you. Only hit you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't kick you. Only kick you because you made me mad. Call 911. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out. Only choke you out because you made me mad. Call 911. Believe me, things change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy. On my mother's side, my great-grandparents, Mama and Pop, beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly, especially when we came outside from playing and ran right into the kitchen, got right into the refrigerator. She said, go wash your hands before you go in the refrigerator. I don't have time to wash my hands. I'm hungry now. She said, boy, you go wash your hands before you get something to eat. I told you I'm hungry. I don't need to wash my hands. She said, in this house, you wash your hands. I said, okay, great-grandma, I'll wash my hands. Always make sure lots of love in the family, lots of food in the belly. Love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful great-grandfather, Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player. And then my beautiful grandparents, Muddy and Hezekiah, they were seers. They could off the top look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. They even help me to this day. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Starting a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys, the Little League baseball team, to the championship of the universe. Always seeing rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. Mama, you hear my prayers. I believe in praying. God, you hear my prayers. I love you, Mama. Dear Mama, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. The best person I ever met in my life. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Mary Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They also owned 2 gas stations. Plus, they owned 40 acres of land. I was 8 years old walking through the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt somebody touch me in my forehead. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, what are you doing, young man, going to get some cookies? I said, cookies are baby crap. What I'm doing, Grandma, I'm going to get my reparations. But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, Always making sure that planes can fly high, so we can all stay safe at night. Always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd was speaking. Always saying go forward. Even a racist reader. In fact, he said, go forward, don't look back. You don't have much backside. I said, I love my backside, Todd, but I have been doing my squats to make sure my backside is bigger. I love Todd with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Daisy set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast. And back in the day at Salem Media, it became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Bets Network because of 2 black men in the crew. Daisy said about that interview, you can be anything you want to be. One time she scored 6 goals in a soccer game. It was Daisy for the kick, Daisy for the goal, 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 goal. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. I'm so proud of you. And then Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, every night a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. I pray that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You can be anything you want to be. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper to look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And I started Googling. And I'm on 29 podcast platforms. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. And now it's streaming on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always trust God. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And then Big C, with all that wealth and knowledge over the years, like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn, always saying you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe, saying let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. SB nominated Big C Sports Podcast. I have no scripts. I have no 3-bit teleprompter. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is this gland in the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients call it the third eye. They say that's how you talk to God. And that's why I scream so loud. I want God to hear it. God, you hear my prayers. You hear me praying. Just say yes. Say yes. I love you, God, with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. I always end my shows paying homage to Martin Luther King Jr. and President Abraham Lincoln. What do they want to be part of our election season? They want the presidential candidates to say, reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. One more time. Reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. I thank you. I appreciate you. And I hope that you have a super fantastic day.